Hi, this is a short video I'm preparing right before our first exam. Here we're looking at the problem we did on our last end of class quiz. We learned about semaphores and we were trying to use them to solve some simple problems. This is the one you got to do on the quiz. We've got two threads. We're pretending they're running concurrently and they're each running in this infinite loop. So over and over, the one on the left is going to try to print F, then O. And on the one on the right is going to try to print R and then M and then a new line. And the quiz said you were supposed to make sure they always print just the words from or form. And you can get either of those out of these letters, F, R, O, M, if each thread got to take turns, or F, O, R, M. So we just need to make sure that the threads only execute these print statements in one of those two orders. Some of the ordering is already done for us, like since this thread on the left prints F, then O, then each O should always come after an F. Same over here on the right, the M always comes after the R, but it's the execution between the threads we have to worry about. So it's always F, and then either O or R, and then the other one, whichever one hadn't been printed yet, and then the M and the new line at the end. So let's think about the ordering we need to enforce. We need to make sure this, no matter what, this R doesn't print until after this F prints, even if this thread tries to print it early. So we might have to wait before printing an R. That's a good job for an acquire. So we can have a semaphore X that we acquire on there. And if we start that semaphore out at 0, I'll put this up in the upper left. I'll declare any of the semaphores that I need there. If we start that off at 0, then if this thread tries to print the R, it'll have to wait until someone tells it that it's okay to print that. And as long as the thread on the left has printed the F, then it's okay to print the R. So we can put a release on that same semaphore over on the left. So as soon as we know that the F's been printed, we can tell the thread on the right it's okay to print the R. At this point, either the R or the O could get printed, because maybe this thread gets here first and gets to print the R. We still need to print the O before we can print the last letter, but maybe the R gets printed first, or maybe this thread, after releasing it, zips ahead and prints this O, and then the R gets printed later. So we've got part of the ordering we have to worry about. This O will always come after the F, but we need to make sure this M doesn't get printed until after the O gets printed. M, we already said it automatically is going to follow the R because they're both done by the same thread. But we want to make sure this O gets printed before the M. And that seems like another job for a semaphore. Let's have another semaphore Y. Let's start it out at 0. And let's think of that as making this thread wait to print the M until we know this O has been printed. We can do the same thing here. Once the O's been printed, we can release on that semaphore, and that tells the one on the right that it's okay to go ahead. Technically the release increments the semaphore, and then the thread on the right can decrement it and continue executing. So this should make sure only from gets printed out. And this is all you needed to get full credit for the quiz. There is one more thing that we should worry about, and that is, what if this thread on the left runs really fast? It could print the F and then the O, and then it could zip around this loop again and try to print another F. That would be the start of the next word, but we don't want that to happen until we finished printing the previous word. So this F shouldn't get printed until the last M and new line gets printed. We can do the same trick here. We can put an acquire in front of the printing of the F and a release after the M gets printed, and then the F will only get printed after this M and new line gets printed. Here though, instead of starting this semaphore at 0, it seems like we want to start it at 1, because when these threads start executing, this F needs to be able to print, even if this thread on the right hasn't executed any of this code yet. So this starting Z at 1 lets this thread get everything started by printing the F. And then the O and the R will get printed in either order. The M will only happen after both of those. And then the next F will only happen after the last word has been printed. And that should be all you need to solve this problem. Hopefully that made sense. And if a problem like this shows up on the next exam, you'll be in good shape for it. Good luck on the exam.